there's a prophecy or a happening at the very beginning of the Gospel of Luke. And it involves Zechariah, who we hear about in the Gospel today. And there's this account that Zechariah was chosen by Lot. He was a Levitical servant, a Levite, and a priest, and a priest from the priestly family of Levi. And he was chosen to offer incense and go into the temple and offer to the Lord this praise and worship. And in the account in Luke, it says that the angel of the Lord appeared to him and had this annunciation, this proclamation to Zechariah, and it was the angel Gabriel. And the angel Gabriel said, Zechariah, do not be afraid, your prayer has been heard, and your wife Elizabeth will, in fact, conceive and bear a son. And then the angel says, and you are to name him John. And there's the angel goes on in that prophecy and describes a bit more about, in the spirit and power of Elijah, he speaks about the greatness of the son to be born. But he says to Zechariah, and you are to name him John. And Zechariah's response is, well, basically he says, I'm an old man. I'm an old guy here. And my wife is really old. She's beyond childbearing years. So, how is this ever going to possibly happen and come to pass? How am I going to know this? Basically saying, that's good that you're describing this to me, the angel of God, but I don't quite believe it. I just don't quite see how it's going to happen. I can't understand that right now. And so, for the whole process of John the Baptist's childbirth and the pregnancy of Elizabeth, Zechariah is mute. He can't speak. And because the angel says, you will be unable to speak until these things come to pass, as they have been promised. And we know we've been hearing in the gospel recently of our Blessed Mother and this annunciation that she received. And the blessing that Elizabeth said of her was, blessed are you who believed that what was spoken to you by the Lord would be fulfilled. So we see Mary as this sort of perfect type of receiving the very similar message from Gabriel. You will conceive a son. Her son is Christ the Lord. And instead of disbelieving, she says, be it done unto me according to your word. So she conceives that word in a deep belief and in this obedience of faith, submitting her entire person, her intellect, her will, her entire person to the word spoken to her by the Lord, putting herself at the service of this word of God. And Zechariah certainly has a holiness and a piety, but he wasn't able to quite believe that word. And so this is where we find ourselves in this gospel account. And we do, in fact, see this fulfillment taking place. And as we heard in the very first reading, this from the prophet Malachi, that comes from the very last chapter of the Old Testament, the third and final chapter of Malachi, but it's kind of right on the brink, the last words before we get into the New Covenant, the New Testament, and this preparation for the Word of God coming to dwell among us. And this gospel passage proclaims that the eighth day came for the circumcision of the child, and the mother says, yes, he's going to be named John, but now it's Zechariah's turn to offer. The people ask him, what is this child's name to be? And the gospel says he asked for a tablet and wrote, John is his name. And immediately at that, it's like he conceived in his heart at that moment, I will name the child John. Just like the angel had said, that word of God was kind of unlocked in his heart. And his faith and his belief was awakened to say, The word of God is coming true, and I believe it. I receive it. And it says, immediately his mouth was opened, his tongue freed, and he spoke, blessing God. And so as we approach the birth of Christ, that word who became flesh and dwelt among us, does the word of God find a ready home in our hearts, as it did in the Blessed Mother, as it took some time for Zechariah to receive that word? What is that word, that newness of life that the Lord wishes to speak to you and I at this time at Christmas? The Lord is always doing something new in our hearts and in our lives, and he has a word that he imparts to us. Yes, that word is Christ, but it is also a unique word for our lives. The Lord wants to bring something to birth in us. And so we ask our Blessed Mother at this time, and also Zechariah, for that grace to say, Lord, what word do you wish to speak to me at this time of Christmas? What newness of life do you wish to bring me to? What new birth do you wish to bring about in my own heart and life, in my intimacy and relationship with you? And give me the grace, Lord, to receive this word, to rejoice in this word, and to conceive in my heart this truth of the word becoming flesh in me, the word taking deep root in me, so that I can be that voice, can be that instrument of the Lord in my life, that the word won't simply kind of be stuck and remain in me and be kind of blocked, and I'll be unable to speak and to share the message of the Lord. But when I receive it with joy and with a deep belief, then I'll be able to, as it happened for Zechariah, his mouth was opened, his tongue freed, and he spoke, blessing God. So we ask for that gift today, to be ones who are able and open to receive that word of God, and then he can bring to new birth in our hearts and our lives that which he is longing to bring forth. That the word can become flesh and truly dwell not only among the church, but also a deep dwelling in our own lives and hearts as well.